Hey everybody, welcome to the Nuggies Cast. I'm your host, Matt.
And I'm Tyler.
And I'm Drew.
And I'm Nate.
It felt a little weird, Drew not going last. Usually he's in the last spot, but for whatever reason, Jesse's got us all in a different order today. So, hello everybody, welcome to the Linux Cast. We are on a roll, third episode of the year already. We're moving right on. My goal is 40 for the year. We've never actually hit 40 episodes in a year, so we're going to give that a try. I don't have high hopes, but we'll see how it goes. Anyways, welcome to the Linux Cast. We talk about Linuxy things, and we're going to have a fantastic episode for you tonight. We're going to talk about Flatpaks and everything that is wrong with the world of Flatpaks. I don't think we're going to say one positive thing about Flatpaks. And if anybody does, you're a Snaps user. That's just the way that it works. Okay. And anyways, that's our main topic. But before we do, we're going to do something a little weird. It's going to feel weird. Like the weirdest thing ever. Because normally the Nuggies are at the end. So we're going to put the end at the beginning. And the beginning at the end. Now, it's going to be really weird. Also, that wind is scaring the crap out of me. It's like a friggin' hurricane out there. And Drew's like, you've never been in a hurricane before. It's like a stiff breeze out there. And Matt's like, oh, God, getting underneath the desk. Anyways, yeah, it has been a long day, so I'm going to be a little silly. But what else is new? So before we jump in, we're going to do the Nuggies of the week first, just to freshen things up. So, Drew, your Nuggie of the week.
I found a untested application on Nextcloud called Quick Notes, and it is a lightweight note-taking app for Nextcloud, and basically it just allows users to jot down and manage little snippets of notes, kind of like Google Keep, and it puts it in a nice little like yellow Post-it type thing. It's designed for fast and simple note-taking, not a lot of complexity, but it does have Markdown integration to it. So it's called Quick Notes and it's on Nextcloud. And if you are so inclined, give it a try.
Cool. I'm always up for trying a new note-taking application. You know me. I think, ooh, notes. Tyler, your Nuggie of the week, please.
Mine is SideQuest. I've gotten back into playing VR occasionally. I've had a few instances where it made sense for me to take the headset with me somewhere. I was going to be somewhere for a while, so I've been playing more of it. It's freaking awesome. SideQuest is a completely free app. They do have paid games on there, but the free ones, trust me, there's plenty of them, and they're great. So if you're like me and you've already just forfeited all of your privacy by owning one of these headsets, then just go ahead, get yourself some free games, because Lord knows all the free ones you're going to find on the actual Meta store suck, other than VR chat. And even that's questionable as to whether or not it's good. So, yeah, give it a shot. It's pretty awesome.
Cool. Nate, your Nuggie of the week, please.
So I actually pulled mine from Amazon. I was searching for some storage capabilities for my new setup on my office. And I ran across these acrylic keyboard and mouse storage racks. And basically, you can store 3 keyboards and 3 mice in it at the same time. And I shared it with the guys and said I was going to make it my Nuggies of the week because I think it's really cool. And I think if you are interested in something like that, of like showing your custom keyboards and, you know, actually being able to put a place for your mouse, because I have too many of those as well, it's a really cool solution. So that's my Nuggie of the week.
Yeah, I'm going to get a whole bunch of those things. My entire wall behind my desk will be covered with keyboards. But yeah, I want like all those. I've seen those in like desk setup videos before where people like display their keyboards, and I was like, oh, I kind of always want that. But also, my problem with the keyboard stuff is most of my keyboards are in pieces, like because I steal the keycaps off from them all the time just to switch things out, and they don't get replaced very often. So yeah, I'd have to go through and make them pretty again. Yeah, all right, so my Nuggie of the week is an application. I don't think I've used this before, but maybe I did, but it doesn't matter. It's called Stream Controller, and basically if you have an Elgato Stream Deck, not a Steam Deck, but a Stream Deck, that name still is the stupidest thing ever. If you have a Stream Deck and you want to use it on Linux, you're going to need some application to do it because the Elgato software just doesn't work on Linux. Stream Controller allows you to do this, and it's basically a GTK application. It allows you to put all of you control the buttons on your Stream Deck. It's awesome. It's very, very good. It allows you to basically do whatever you want. So I have, for example, buttons on here that will allow me to add my video and podcast descriptions to the clipboard. I have one that allows me to make sure the screen doesn't go off using Xset. And I have volumes, and I have things to open some apps. And then when I was in GNOME there for a few days, while I was playing around with gestures on a trackpad, I had it so that I could set up caffeine and set it up so that I could turn on Do Not Disturb. So it will also allow you to control like OBS and control things like, basically anything that has like a command. Like if you scripted something, you could hit a button and it would run a script. That's cool. So Stream Controller, if you have a Stream Deck, it's actually made it useful. I will say, just as a cautionary tale, it loves to eat your resources like a lot. So sometimes it will use something like 100,000 threads for whatever reason. It's really, really weird. There's a leak in there somewhere, but it still works good. So there's my Nuggie of the week. So just instantaneous feedback. Did that feel weird doing the Nuggies at the beginning of the show to anybody else? Or was it just me?
It's weird.
It feels
completely weird.
It feels like we should be done now, right?
I don't know what you're doing, but I'm about to hang up. So
yeah. It's the end of the show, right? We haven't got anything to talk about. All right. So yeah, that felt a little weird. Yeah. There's only 4 ums. That's all. How can you get all the ums? Like,
I'm sorry. I'll start talking more. I'm so sorry.
Just go, All right. Nate says, "Stop that, you bastard." Anyways,
I'm just gonna cut all this out.
Well, we're gonna go ahead and move on to the main topic, which is the flawed nature of Flatpaks. So we have talked Flatpaks versus snaps before. When Tyler first joined the podcast, we did an entire episode of Flaks versus snaps, and that's been 3-4 years ago already. But the reason why I want to talk about it now is because me and a few of the people in my Discord server got talking about Flatpaks a few days ago, and it made me realize that there are some major flaws when it comes to Flatpaks. So I wanted to talk about them and kind of talk, because at this point I think we can all agree that Flatpaks, in terms of containerized package formats, has won the day, right? Nobody uses snaps unless you're on Ubuntu. I think that's basically true. So if you're using a containerized format, you're probably using Flatpaks. Also, nobody uses app images. They suck. So
I take that back, Matt. I know you've got one on your machine right now.
That's true.
Nextcloud.
And it hurts. Because I have to go to Crusader to launch it.
Okay.
You don't use the Flatpak for Nextcloud?
It's not Nextcloud. It's something else.
It's the sync thing. The sync.
Oh yeah, that's what I use too. That's Flatpak.
Oh, okay. All right.
Anyways, yeah. So what I wanted to do just before we jump into the outline that I have, your general thoughts on Flatpak before we jump into the specifics. So Tyler, what are your general thoughts on Flatpak? Good, bad, neutral?
I mean, I think they're a fine system. They work. Do I think they are a great idea for just to be standardized as the answer for everything in Linux? No, because Flatpaks are much larger and make your system much larger. But I mean, I do see them as a handy solution for a problem. Like certain applications that make sense for you to containerize, because let's say the dependency tree changes all the time, or you need it to be extremely stable. Like, sure, yeah. I mean, it's fine. Do I think that there are worse implementations? Absolutely. Snaps would be one. App Images got it wrong, but they're probably better. But that's a whole nother topic. So I think they're okay. Like, they're fine. They're just too large. They're like fat.
So very enthusiastic. So he's rah Flatpak. So yeah.
I'm not rah Flatpaks. I'm just saying, I think, like, really my only big downside is they're just too large.
Okay.
Most of them.
That makes sense. Drew, I know you're the Flatpak
No, whatever Tyler just said, I'm going to go with whatever Tyler just said. So No, I don't like.
love that.
I don't use Flatpaks. So yeah, this is going to be a short week for me. I'm just going to go, yeah, whatever he said. But frankly, I understand Flatpaks because I am a Debian user, and Debian users are 2 years, right now, about a year and a half removed from new software. So if I want new software on my Debian-based machine, I have a few choices, and Flatpak is probably the least objectionable of any of them. Now, do I need the latest and greatest is the question. No, I don't. So that is the reason why I don't use Flatpak. Save one, and it's that apostrophe markdown editor that I have used in the past. I don't think it's on my machine right now, but that is something that I would do simply because it's the newest. And that new version is so much better than what is on the Debian package repos. So to answer the question, do I use Flatpaks? No. Do I understand their use? Yes. But I'm not a fan. If I had a choice, I would use older software, and it would be native.
Okay. What about you, Nate? What's your general thoughts on Flatpaks?
Yeah, let me answer it like this. This laptop has 131 Flatpaks, and that one has 66, and that one back there has 250.
He likes Flatpaks. I think that's the answer to the question. Okay.
Well, so here's the main reason. I like the fact that when I download the application, it's the same application every single time, irregardless of what OS I'm using. And I'm as much as the AR is cool on Arch, if I actually want a stable Arch system, I just use Flatpaks.
That makes sense.
That's fair.
Okay, so one of the reasons why, so my thoughts are mixed. So I use Flatpaks. I have probably about 40 of them installed on my system right now. There are certain applications that just work better when it comes to Flatpaks. So like OBS, I'll never download the native package of that ever. Like it doesn't matter what distro I'm on, because it's not packaged for any distro natively, except for maybe Ubuntu. I'm not even sure about that. But it's definitely not packaged for OpenSUSE or Arch or anything. But that means that someone else is packaging that thing, and they all do it wrong, or they all do it differently. Let's put it that way. And because that's true, it's like playing roulette when it comes to, does this thing work the way that I think it's going to work? And the same thing happened with like Audacity. Audacity is compiled differently in Arch than it is in OpenSUSE, than it is in whatever distro you use. It's just different. They're also different versions, so you got to deal with, does this have the feature that I got used to? So there are certain applications that I use Flatpaks for, and then I'll always use Flatpak. And then there's other ones where I don't care all that much. So like Crusader, I'm happy with that being a native package. Like something like Discord, I don't care if that's a Flatpak or not, because it breaks either way. It doesn't matter. So for me, I'm very mixed. I have general thoughts in terms of the problems that Flatpaks have, which we'll get into over the course of the episodes. So maybe it's just best to go into that. So one of the things that I find, so let me just put a little thing out there. So the general idea behind Flatpaks is to basically create Android apps for Linux. And the idea here is that you have a containerized package that has all of the dependencies and everything available to it or packaged along with it. Not necessarily the same thing, but that allows you to ensure that the user has 100% control over the permissions when it comes to what the app has access to. On Android or on iOS even, they both do containerized packages. The idea is that you open up the application and it pops up thing, hey, this thing wants access to your microphone, it wants access to your camera, it wants access to your contact information, your home directory. That's the general goal of Flatpaks. That's what they want it to be. But the reason why I find it so silly is because it doesn't work like that at all. When you are going to use a piece of software from FlatHub or whatever, the developer gets to choose whatever permissions they want to have on by default. They can have full access to everything without ever asking you. Like it doesn't require you to go into FlatSeal to actually make it change. It can just be on. There's no opt-in. It's all opt-out. And that's not the way that the permission system should work on anything. That's not a permission system. The developer has the control, not the user. So the general idea behind Flatpaks, the containerized nature of them, is a complete and utter sham, because the developers can do whatever it is that they want in terms of giving themselves access to whatever. And there's no way really for a user to know unless they go download Flatseal and actually go look and see what permissions it actually has. So that's my biggest problem. Like Zane, you talked about how your biggest problem is the size. I have big hard drives. I'm fine with the size. For me, if I'm going to use a containerized format, a containerized package, I want it to have the benefits of a containerized package. I want it to be containerized. And these just aren't. It's a sham. So that's my general thoughts. You guys have thoughts on that?
Well, mine would kind of stem off of yours, because, I mean, in my opinion, like, I've talked about it in chat while this has been going on too, but like, I don't think that they're so massive that it's like you shouldn't use them. That just, you'll have duplicate versions of dependencies. It makes them a little bit larger. That's not ideal. I don't want my whole system to do that personally, so that's why I won't use Flatpaks for everything. But for me also, some applications just are more annoying for me to use as a Flatpak, because I have to manage their permissions and go in and allow it to access X when it should already have that permission set. I shouldn't have to go and do it. But to me, that what you were saying about them not being truly containerized, I normally find it annoying to deal with them acting as a container, just having to give permissions to, like, Steam is a great example. Like, if you get Steam as a Flatpak, that thing will not see external hard drives at all until you go into Flatseal and mess around with the permissions and fix it.
Well, part of the problem is that the permissions that they do have are all managed by an external app that you have to go get. Like, that's the dumbest thing you've ever heard of. But like, if you're going to, they have these things. I mean, I'm not a developer, but they have APIs are a thing that exists that you could have like tied into like systemd does everything anyways. Adding one more thing isn't going to topple over the tree. So add an API in there somewhere, or a service or whatever, that runs when a Flatpak runs. It says, hey, these permissions are attributed to this application. Do you agree to this? Or do you want to give it access to external hard drives when it comes to Steam? If that asking was when you first installed Steam, you wouldn't have a problem with the permissions, probably because you don't have to go hunting for the damn things in order to turn it on, right? Yeah, so I think that's the biggest thing. So just, I guess the question is, do you guys think that there's an actual, so like on mobile, their whole thing is they're coming from a situation where they basically started over with applications, so they've been containerized basically from the beginning, right? On a computer, they started as native packaging and had access to everything, and then have been trying to transition over to a containerized package format. Do you guys think that containerized is even something that is needed?
Interesting question.
Anybody want to go?
I would say that depending on the situation, for example, I use the example of, switching distros, and technically the application is still the same between all the distros. In that particular situation, yes. Other than that, not really. I don't really see another reason.
Because you can be like Drew and never, I mean, he doesn't need containerized packages. He doesn't care what the version is. He doesn't care that he has, the brand new stuff or whatever, right? So when you think of, I need a package, what are the things that matter to you? Like, really what matters is it available? Can I use it? Does it work? Right? Asking someone, do you care if it's containerized? The answer is probably no. So the selling point of a containerized package hasn't been sold to for developers. It makes a hell of a lot of sense, right? Because of the being able to package in the dependencies and all this stuff, right? But for general users, most of them don't care where the package comes from as long as the package is available. So if you go into GNOME software, you download something, You don't care if it's a deb package or if it's an RPM package or if it's, coming from the AUR or if it's coming from FlatHub. It doesn't really matter as long as it's there. In fact, it only gets more confusing when you have a package or a software store that offers you an option from where to get it from. Just give me the package. I don't care where it's from. I think that's the general sense, right?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like for most people, the only important thing is that the app works. Like, beyond that, as long as it works as intended. Someone actually put in chat, if Flatpaks actually prompted to grant permissions to things that were restricted when you tried to use them, instead of just failing, it would solve a lot of issues, or all the issues with Flatpaks. I feel like for most people that's true. Make the app just work, and Flatpaks would be fine for most people, and they don't really care if it's containerized or not or whatever. I feel like most people also are fine with clicking allow or like dealing with, permissions on a phone. And I feel like most people wouldn't care on a computer either. It wouldn't be that big of a deal, especially if they did it the way phones do, where it's like, if the app is going to ask for this permission every time it opens, let me have a button that says always accept. Like, done. And I feel like most people are fine with that world.
I think that so they're having a debate in the chat, like, should everything be containerized? And I think that in a world where everything is containerized, that's fine, but nobody cares. Like that's what I keep coming back to is developers care, regular users don't care what the package is, as long as it's available to them. So if it solves a problem for the developers, fine, let's do it. But part of the benefits of a containerized format are the permissions that are supposed to be able to be controlled, and right now they're not. And in true Linux fashion, we can't agree on what the format's going to be, so every system is going to be different, right? So we're going to have snaps, we're going to have Flatpaks, we're going to have app images. The funny thing is, maybe we should have talked about app images a little bit, because I know I give them a lot of shit, but their general benefit isn't that it has permissions or whatever, but that it's really is all packaged in one thing, like one container, and you can take it from one place to another, right? And that benefit is actually something that the user could say, hey, this is a good thing. I can take this, with me or whatever, or it has, I can keep multiple versions if I wanted to. There are actual tangible user benefits, whereas saying, oh, it's containerized, as of right now, at least I don't think has any user benefits, even though the idea of having a cross-platform package manager is probably a good one.
It being sandboxed and still requiring permissions that weakens that kind of isolation from the rest of the system. My problem is that I think that the Flatpaks have less scrutiny in terms of security, that they can put stuff, and maybe I'm wrong about this, so hopefully someone can educate me. Are the applications that are being put on FlatHub, for example, are they scrutinized to the level that, like, let's just say the Debian maintainers have, and as far as security and so on? I'm just putting that out there because I don't know the answer.
I don't know either. Do either of you guys know the answer? We probably should have invited George on the show, so we should have done. He would have known the answer. Yeah, I don't know. I think, though, that their verification process has been messed up for a long time, and the part of the problem is that anybody can put a Flatpak up there, right? You can put a Flatpak up on GitHub. I'm sure there's probably is a review process. I don't know what it is, but you don't have to be the developer to put it up there. And I don't know what their verification process is now, but at one point you didn't have to be the developer to be verified. So yeah, I'm not actually. What do you guys think? Look at the question that I had again. Do you guys think that in terms of like speed and actual usability, that Flatpak has a benefit, over like native packaging or anything like that? Sorry, I'm doing multiple things at once here.
Yeah. No. No, I don't think. Again, my personal choice would be just to have a native application that works. I don't necessarily need to have containerized software. And I don't need to have, like I said, and you've said it as well, man, I don't need to have the latest and greatest for me to get my work done. And that generally is all I need is something that's stable, fast, and gets my work done. So,
And I mean, I know people have been like arguing about it in the comments, like for quite a while too, but I'm more with Drew here because I would much rather just have my system as regular binaries. I mean, you can make the argument that there's security improvements with having each application containerized. However, I feel like for most people, especially like us, you're not installing random apps unless it's on a virtual machine where you don't really care and you're doing like maybe recording of random new apps to try. Like you're already doing some kind of system obfuscation to like get away from a potentially bad piece of software. Most of the stuff I run on my computer, like, well, if not all of it, I trust. So I don't need that security improvement. And Flatpaks, no matter what, like any type of these containerized systems with all of, especially with larger programs, you're going to end up with it needing the same like dependency as another one, but a slightly different version. And then that's just going to keep happening until you have a system that's much larger than it should be. And I mean, this is kind of what you'll run into with like the same idea of Windows as well. Like most of their programs do this too. They're essentially containers. All of the things they need are wrapped up in it. And you end up having a lot of overlap on a system that runs for a long time. I would rather have it just be binaries. If I have to go the whole containerized route, I'd actually like app images to work much better and be like produced more, because those things, I mean, as long as you've got, I think Fuse is the only dependency. I can't remember what it's called, but there's one dependency. Most Linux systems have it. I can just slap a whole bunch of programs that I know I might need on a flash drive and forget about it. And I'll always have them if I need them.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, so I'm going to ask you specifically, Nate. George Castor wants to join to talk about this. It's going to mean we're going to have to scrap the audio, the separate audio, and you'll have to edit just the video audio. So I'll leave that up to you. What do you think?
I mean, I might still be able to make it work. I do have a comment to Tyler's comment and Drew's comment. First of all, on the Windows thing, unlike Windows, when you close a Flatpak, it closes. Program just isn't sitting back there holding on to its little dependency forever.
True.
Secondly, I like the fact that Flatpaks do kind of hold their own dependencies, because I think this is what's the pathway of actually making like things like Resolve, eventually hopefully Adobe, if they pull their head out of the rear end. Things like even like Affinity, like all these certain applications that are more web, be actually packaged into its own containerized Flatpak, and then you just install it, and whatever it needs, it pulls. And so I think that's the reason why I think it's the future, is because of the simple fact that it can do those things. And as much as I like some of the things I like for Debian packages or Ubuntu packages, but we all have to admit, not all of them are the same version, and you run into weird issues. And then also as well, do you realize how many times you would have to, in a developer sense, you would have to make a package for each individual package manager, or you could just put it in Flatpak and you're done.
That's fair.
Yeah, the universal aspect of the containerized stuff makes the most sense from a developer standpoint, and from a user perspective. Being able to know that you have access to OBS no matter where you're going, as long as it supports Flatpak, that's great.
They did update the website too. So like, you know how you said that you can't really tell if it's a third party or a developer, like they upload? That's different now. So when you actually click on the link to the Flatpak, it tells you, oh, this is a third party, or oh, this is actually by the developer.
Okay,
I'll actually
cool.
tell you now.
I know they redid the website. I haven't, to be honest with you, I don't visit the website very often, because I just go into a terminal and say, hey, Flatpak, install this thing, and it installs it, which is always a nice thing to do. Yeah, I think that, so like with snaps, there's so many other problems that Flatpak doesn't have that we get caught into the argument when you're debating the two package
Matt,
formats.
I got a join message. I don't know
From George.
Yeah.
He can join. Yeah, I think that when you're debating the two, it's really hard to compare them simply because of the nature of snaps themselves. So that's the reason why I kind of limited it to the discussion to Flatpaks this time. But overall, I think that the general benefits from the user and the developer are two separate discussions, and it's kind of hard to equalize those two things and have the same conversation. George, you want to give us some schooling on when it comes to Flatpaks for developers?
Test. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yep.
All right, cool. I'm recording locally too.
Cool.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate that. Matt, if I get too overly mansplaining, just cut me off.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm actually one of the volunteer FlatHub community managers, which I was doing. So technically some of this is my job, so I'm here to answer a bunch of questions. I only caught up in the last 15 minutes, though.
We've been basically going around in circles anyway, so you probably didn't miss much.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So did we talk about performance, file space? Like what are the top 3 things that you all hate so far?
The lack of built-in permissions, having to forced to do permissions in a different application. Basically, the developer being able to give any permissions that they want out of the box without having to actually ask for them. Tyler talked about size. We didn't bring up the fact that I have 6 different Mesa Flatpaks installed on my system. We haven't got there yet.
Oh, okay. We could talk about file size because I debunked that one a few years ago, but nobody reads. So, but
Well, hold on. So when it comes to like file size being a problem, like I just made the point that you'll end up with dependencies that are slightly different, and like those will kind of build up as you build a lot of packages or have a lot of Flatpaks installed.
right.
Is there a mitigation that I'm unaware of for that?
Yeah. So the way it works, let me just get your chat up too, because I wanna address any questions people might have. Just give me one more second.
That's fine. Joining in the middle of a podcast is always going to be the most smooth process ever, especially for the poor editor to hear.
You know, Matt,
Yes, sir.
I sit at home and I'm like, I hope Matt calls me onto the podcast today.
We should have just done it
that's
right from the beginning. It would have been.
Yeah. So
smoother.
the way it works with storage on Flatpaks is, the Flatpak technology is actually built on OS tree, which is cool. That's the same thing that Fedora Atomic is using, and that's what we use in uBlue and stuff like that. So it has Git-like structures, which I don't want to get into all this stuff because like the engineers do a way better job than explaining this than I do. So I'll just go into concepts. So all of this, using your Mesa as an example, all of those versions are deduplicated. So you don't have a full copy of Mesa 6 times. You have the stuff that's common in between them is deduplicated. So which is unfortunate because when you look at a Flatpak list, you're like, oh my God, there's like 35 Flatpak runtimes, right? So you see GNOME 47, GNOME 46, GNOME 45, and then you have the KDE equivalents, right? So you don't actually have 3 copies of all the KDE libraries. So those are deduplicated in the same way that in a repo, they're deduplicated in like a Git structure, right? So that you can observe this the next time you do a Flatpak update. You'll see that it's kind of a delta in action. So over the wire, Flatpak is actually very efficient because it's only ever sending you deltas. But the UX does a really poor job at explaining that, and it looks like you're downloading a ton of stuff. Like if you're like reading the CLI. On top of that, the GUIs kind of like do their best to hide stuff. So it looks like, generally speaking, the users presented a UX that is not very friendly when it comes to figuring out how much actual storage is using. So when I was trying to figure this out, I went and I figured out all the deduping stuff. So what actually happens is over time, the more things you install, you'll pull in some runtimes, but at some point you'll have enough runtimes on your system that it will negate whatever the disk usage is. So the way I tested this was I grabbed the top 20 apps in my Linux distro, which was Ubuntu at the time. And then I grabbed the debs for those. And then I grabbed the equivalent Flatpaks. And I put this up in my blog somewhere, right? And by the time they were all done, it was between like a gig or 2 between them, right? Because what actually happens is two things. A, you're definitely getting stuff deduped on Flatpaks, right? Where on a package-based distro, it's going to pull in the actual like Debian package of Tickle TK or whatever the dependency is, right? However, if you look at the apps that people are using, a lot of these third-party apps, all the browsers, Discord, like if you go in the App Store and search by the stuff that people use, 95% of that is already included in the Debian package, right? So in a lot of ways, they're using Debian packages, but they're not dynamically linking them to using your distro libraries. So whether you like it or not, whether you get the Deb or the Flatpak of Chrome, there's an entire operating system in there with like Electron. Same with Discord, right? So at some point, it becomes a wash when it comes to disk space. Am I rambling or does that make sense?
No, I think that makes
that made sense.
Yeah.
You end up with enough run times that you're covering enough of the dependency tree anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Exactly. The only difference is, so on your traditional distro, you get that too. You're installing the packages in the background, right? It's just you're drawing the line at where you want those libraries maintained, right? For me, as a Flatpak native person, I want GNOME libraries to be with the GNOME apps. I don't want them with my operating system, right? So that is... For me, it's more about moving who's in charge of the libraries from the operating system to Flatpak, understanding that sometimes some applications may not have support for those latest runtimes. So you keep that old runtime around. You might have that one app that doesn't get updated. And if you have a few of them, it gets really annoying when you're looking, right? But that does suck. It is inefficient. However, we have deduplication. And the most important part is the application works. Like the application just has to work. That's like my whole, like I will, spending disk to make applications work, I feel is a trade-off that many people are going to say. And then someone in chat is like 1 or 2 gigs is a big difference. It's not. I don't think so. Not on modern hardware in 2025. But if you have old hardware constraints, like that old Chromebook with 64 gigs, just keep Debian on it, right? Like we don't have to switch everybody to anything. We just need to make it so that normal people can use the thing. And then the second thing I wanted to add, sorry, Matt, I'm going to start rambling, is FlatHub is really kind of the only one that has a plan for putting a button on the App Store to pay app developers. And that's like a huge thing that we need to solve. Like if you apt get install GIMP, like there's no thing in there that reminds you, hey, you should support GIMP, right? So I think for new users especially, getting them to support those app developers is something that FlatHub can do that your traditional distro isn't going to do. We tried that at Canonical for like 15 years, and it was a disaster. It's still a disaster.
Yeah, there's problems with that, though, George. The thing is that vast majority of people don't go to FlatHub to see the button that you're talking about. So, so that's an issue. Because despite what your biggest dream is of everyone using something like Universal Blue or Bluefin or whatever, people still use Debian, they still use Ubuntu, they still use Fedora or whatever, and they're all using something different. So every distro is going to be in charge of that button, and
well, and also too, another point to add on to this is you're hoping that the app stores will be usable, and it doesn't take long of venturing around with different Linux distros to realize just how many app stores are almost unusable. Like they function, but they don't function like they should. And if you can't really search through your own app store anyway, most people aren't going to go and be like, I should support something. Like, no, where's the button to fix the app? Like where I can get $5 to fix the app store, make it better. But also I did also want to go back because we were talking about permissions and stuff, and I'd like to hear your opinion on the current state of permissions and your opinion on having it where it actually individual Flatpak pieces of software ask for permissions if they need them.
So I think they should ask, because that's how Android is, right? Sometimes it's like that's what users expect, right? I am not sure why the default way with Flatpaks are this way. However, I did notice that the newer apps that are designed with FlatHub in mind never ask me for permissions. They all just work out of the box. So for me, I picked the 1 or 2 apps that are important to me when I set up my computer. I set the permissions once or twice. Like I think I've used FlatSeal once in 2 years. So I think that's definitely an issue, and it's a thing that needs to be sorted. So I'm not sure.
Do you have a positive opinion of FlatSeal?
I mean, you have to have it. It would be great.
Yes.
Like, so here's the thing with apps like this, right? Like, I'm glad it's there, but I hate that it has to exist. That's like every app on the Linux desktop.
That's my exact opinion.
Yeah.
So I wanted to know if we shared that.
So I like what KDE is apparently putting it right in their control center, and that's the way to go.
Yeah, because that's exactly what KDE needs is more stuff in the settings panel. You know,
hey man, they picked that road a long time ago. They might as well own it. You know?
Go ahead, Nick.
Isn't Cosmic also doing the exact same thing? Because
I believe they're trying to.
All their applications are literally just based with Flatpaks now. Almost 100%.
Yeah.
The thing about permissions though is that if the permission needs to be granted outside of the application, it's a complete and utter failure from a user perspective.
Yeah.
Because first off, especially if they're going to be in different places, it was one thing if it was just FlatSeal and you knew you had to go get FlatSeal, which first off, no one knows. If you're just a regular normie user, you're not going to know that you need to go do this in order to give it access to your user files or to prevent it from giving it to the user files. The thing about permissions, like I said earlier, is that there are 2 main issues when it comes to Flatpak permissions. First, is that it's not built into the application itself, and I understand from a developer perspective, you don't want to trust some developers to do this. I mean, just generalization. You want to make sure it's in the hands of the system itself and not the Flatpak maintainer, I think. So there has to be some kind of service or an API or a systemd, whatever, in order to that floats on and handles those permissions, so that the developer can't just give access to everything without asking or whatever, or lie to you. I mean, permissions that don't have teeth aren't permissions; they're just buttons. The second thing is, just to go along with that, is that at the moment, at least the way that I think it happens, is that when I download, say for example, Audacity from from FlatHub, that thing comes out of the box with permissions to my home directory. It has permissions to my microphone. It has permissions to basically everything that it wants out of the box. It never asked me for those permissions. I didn't have to go to FlatSeal to give them the permissions. It had those already. And that's not permissions. That's just doing whatever it is that you want to do. And that has no interaction with the users. Alexi in the Discord the other day when we were having this conversation was, well, when you save a file to your home directory, that's you giving permission to the application. That's not the same as a big box that comes up at the beginning and says, hey, would you like to give access to your home directory so this application has access to every file that it needs to. And a lot of times, like Audacity needs access to my home directory. It needs it. It needs access to my microphone. Otherwise, we wouldn't be recording this podcast. But I should, like on Android, like on iOS, it should say, hey, this thing needs access to your camera. Would you like to give it that? And right now, that doesn't do that. And FlatSeal is not the answer because it has no teeth. Developers can have that permission whether you want them to have that permission or not. Or am I just wrong about that, George?
Well, those are reviewed when they go into FlatHub. Like, so every app that I use, I go into FlatHub, and like 90% of them are just unpacking the snap anyway, or the deb that they provide on their website. But getting app developers to publish directly on FlatHub with like trusted binaries is a totally separate thing, which is a big problem that I've been working to fix, because ideally we want them publishing directly. I don't know, Matt, given the options between giving them access to my home directory and giving them root access, one is better than the other. I think it's easier to solve the permissions thing than it is to expect users to deal with all the other complexity.
Well, I mean, I feel like before too long, the Flatpak project will hit a point where just Flatpak itself sets a standard of what they're allowed, like any binary regard. Because I mean, it kind of should be similar to the way Apple or Google like does their review process on trying to get your app onto the App Store. There should be certain things that like irregardless of what you're making, you can access. You can access these files. You can access like this service. But if you want to access the microphone, doesn't matter. It's not up to you. Like Flatpak is going to make sure the user gets a prompt to either allow it or not. And I mean, I really think there's just going to hit a point where Flatpak just goes ahead and does that. It should make, especially too, if you're having to review every app to make sure that it's not doing anything weird with its permissions. If you're having to go over every permission that the program might use, it's way easier to have a set standard, and then just anything else that it needs to use doesn't really matter. It's going to ask the user. If the user doesn't want it, they won't give it to it, push it through. I feel like that would make the review, any review process faster.
Yeah, I think it's focusing around portals, right? So portals are the thing that gives applications the ability to get what they want without like bothering you, you know? So like when I see a cool new GNOME app on OMG Ubuntu, it never asks me for permission. Everything just works, right? Because those apps were kind of designed that way. Usually it's trying to get like the older app. Like the first time I set up OBS was a little bit more complicated than it should be. And I agree 100%. But I also prefer having the latest version of OBS.
So are you of the opinion that it should just work, or that there should be a prompt to be asked for permission? Do you think, because you seem to, I mean, I'm just inferring from some of the things that you've said that you just want it to work. You don't want a prompt for microphone access or stuff like that?
So I don't know. Me personally, I want the prompt because it matches the other platforms, right? And 9 times out of 10, it's like match the other crap that'll help new users move over. However, I think having seen some of these apps that really take advantage of Flatpak portals, everything just works out of the box, so you don't have to do anything, is also pretty awesome. But I will definitely ask someone who's designing this with.
We've kind of talked around it, but Drew had a question earlier about how the review process works. Do you have a insight on how the review process works on FlatHub?
Yeah, we just did one. So Tulip, if Tulip is listening, can you drop the link to your PR? So one of my folks just added an extension to the Vert Manager Flatpak. So it comes with Kimu, so you could just install the Vert Manager Flatpak and not have anything on your host, and VMs and stuff will work. And someone went and reviewed the PR and did all the thing. Like, you can observe it. So what I would actually recommend is go to I'm going to teach people how to actually find out instead of telling you it's totally fine. I'm just going to tell you where to look. If you go to the FlatHub org on GitHub, github.com/FlatHub, each one of those apps has a repo that matches their ID in the store. And what you do is, by default, whichever repo got updated last is at the top of the list. So open like the top 3 ones, or if you see that when you care, and then go into the GitHub issues and the PRs and look. If you actually look in the issues, you'll see where someone from FlatHub is doing the review, or someone says, hey, this permission is too loose. This is, you need to do this. So there's an actual review process similar to a distribution, right? It's kind of the same. And in some cases, it might even be the same people. So, yeah.
My question always is that as of right now, Linux is pretty small. FlatHub is, pretty small. And, it's very, it's feasible for there to be a review process at the moment because it's not huge, right? If it were to get bigger, Tyler, you brought up Apple and Google. They have, trillions of dollars. There's nobody in the Linux sphere that really has that. I mean, unless Red Hat's going to give us all of their money.
They will not.
Right? George says, I asked, okay? They're not giving us all their money.
I did ask, dude. Trust me, I asked.
So if this were to go to the point where, every application under the sun needed to be reviewed constantly because everyone's getting an update, every single day, I think the resources there would be an issue. But at least it's not right now. It seems to be an issue, right? But, I mean, there's the open source aspect of it. Like, open source apps in general aren't generally reviewed by a committee of people. They're just out there and can be reviewed. That's part of like the reason why Floss is awesome, right? So
Yeah.
I suppose there's an aspect of there being the ability for the community to go in there and say, hey, I think Popey found like a snap or something like that at one point that was like a crypto miner or some nonsense.
Oh yeah,
right?
man. Yeah. Yeah.
And that happened because it's open source. I mean, granted, he's big into the snaps stuff, but he was able to find that because of the nature of the code. So
Right.
So
Well,
go ahead.
so someone in chat made, sorry to cut you off. Someone in chat made a very good point. Otherwise, why have containers anyway? Permissions should always be asked. Doesn't matter if the review process is good or not. It's a good point. No matter how good your review process is, if you're assuming the user just wants microphone access, it's probably a bad thing. Like if the goal of containerization is to, like, at the very least, give some security improvements, should probably under no circumstance assume that an app has microphone privileges the same way your phone wouldn't. I don't know. To me though, like I feel like we're kind of ganging up on Flatpaks about this when there's not another solution that's doing any better on this front.
Tyler, remember how you were saying, well, what about my distro packages and reviewing on them? Have you looked in those repositories?
Exactly.
Oh, man.
Exactly.
So this gets me, and like those of you who don't know my history, like I've worked with Debian developers and Ubuntu developers, and they'll be the first to tell you, like the whole idea that there's 50,000 source packages and there's like a Debian developer carefully treading through each one, making sure that your freedom is being like that is not true. Like the only way we can do this is automation. And this helps answer your previous question where you're like, do we even need sandboxing and all? That's why you have to have sandboxing. The apps have to start off with untrusted. They just have to be, right? Drew, you have the Debian package repository. You've trusted, you know how to Linux, right? Like you will be, like that style of software distribution is likely going to be around. But for everybody else that wants to scale, the only way to scale it is only managing the reviews. We can't do the packaging and the reviews, right? Like we've tried that. We've been trying to grow Debian developers since 2006, right? But at some point, the rest of open source just moves so fast, you run out of people, and your only option is for everyone to self-serve in a way through an app store, but with an understood permission model and, all the stuff that you're complaining about that like needs to be fixed, right? There's no doubt that all this stuff needs to be fixed, but you kind of have to start from the never trust the application. And you have to have containerized namespacing and all. I don't want to say containers when it comes to Flatpaks because they use like C groups and stuff. It's all the same tech in Linux, but like an engineer could do a better job explaining all that nuance, because I think when people think container, they're, oh God, they want me to run on my apps through a distro box, right? Which is a thing that Matt does, I guess. But ideally, wouldn't it be great if everything was just transparent with the packaging system and then your browsers and stuff. Like you want your browsers to be as sandbox as possible, right? And an actual real issue that we have with FlatHub is the security model doesn't match Chromium's, right? And that's something that needs to be fixed. Like someone needs to be paid to do that at some point. Someone from Agalia or someone who understands Chromium so that the Flatpak sandbox and the Chromium sandbox don't conflict with each other, right? Because there are people who will tell you that don't run Chromium browsers in Flatpak because it defeats their built-in security model, and they have a point. So you kind of have to address that also. Is that making sense? Sorry.
So let me ask you this question. Do you think, all right, so take your developer hat off for a minute, George.
Sure.
I think you're an awesome guy, but you're a developer first and a user second. Sometimes it feels like you're very.
I get you, Matt.
It's very hard for you to divorce the two, and I understand that. Like for me, I could never be. It'd be hard for me to be both. So
yeah.
Outside of the good job with the word, man. Other than the ability to have a universal app store, so the FlatHub can be transferable between no matter what distro you're in. That's a user-facing benefit of Flatpaks. It's a user-facing benefit of app images and snaps too, and you can use these things anywhere. That's a thing I can point my mom towards, and say, hey, this is a thing that could help if she was a distro hopper at heart, which is hilarious. But you get the idea, right? But
Yeah.
Other than that, if you had to sell a user on FlatHub or on Flatpak why they should use it and tell them why it's good, what would you say that is? Because for me personally, I can't think of one, really. Everything we talked about.
Really?
Well, think about it. Security. Nobody cares about security, really. I mean, developers care, Linux nerds care, but normal people, they don't care. They give their information to Google for free services.
Yeah, so do I.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
So if you want to say security, fine. That's an aspect of it, but vast majority of people don't care. They don't care where the package comes. My argument for this whole thing is that regular users, like actual normal users of Linux, don't care where the package comes from at all. So therefore,
Wait, you're
we might
talking
as well,
about existing Linux users? Is that what you're...
people who just want to go to the GNOME store and get Blender, and download it. They don't care where it comes from. They just want it to be there and they want it to work, right?
Right.
You and I had the same problem when I did my Bluefin review, when I talked about normal people. What I mean by normal people is that they use Linux, but they're normal people. They're not developers.
So like your Linus Tech Tips?
Yeah, like people who plays games and just browses the web for the vast majority of the time, right? They use the occasional application. They're not going to hop into VS Code and fix a bug or compile Gentoo. You know what I mean? They're just normal users.
Yeah.
Selling Flatpaks to them is, I think, harder because they don't care where it comes from as long as it's there. So, I mean, yes, if that's the case, we might as well use Flatpaks because it gives benefits to developers and and to package maintainers. But getting them past that, if they had to make it the choice of using it over, so in other words, what I'm trying to say is sell Drew on using Flatpaks.
Sell Drew. I'm not trying to sell Drew on selling.
Good luck.
Yeah, exactly. Because Drew solved his problem, right? So who are you trying to reach? Are you talking about tech nerds?
I think what Matt is saying.
Are we talking PC enthusiasts, existing Linux users? Just give me a little bit more of the target audience here, and I think I got you.
Drew, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say one step up from a Chrome OS user.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you, Drew. That's exactly what I was hoping you were going to say.
But basically one person, that's like, okay, I'm new to Linux. And Matt's had several of these guys in Linux user groups where it's like, yeah, I'm just starting my 6-month journey. They don't know shit compared to, you. Let's put it that way. They don't know anything compared to what a longtime Linux user that has, development skills, and they're just normies that may have a browser that they do 95% of their stuff in.
Drew, you gave it away.
Well, I know. I mean, web apps are going to be the savior of us all, right? I mean,
yeah. I mean, let's look at it this way. There's a reason Chromebooks won. Those are the people who are in Europe. They don't understand. In my county, there's 35,000 Chromebooks in the school system alone. So that Chrome experience, 95% of people need a web browser, right? And I think we can do that today, right? There's a few nitnoid things like upgrades and things like that. And that's kind of what I started Bluefin for, right? I wanted a better Chromebook, right? For all of these enthusiasts where we're talking about sell them on Flatpaks, sell them on this, the only thing I could bring you is a little bit of evidence. So Bazite was on Digital Foundry, right? That's one of the largest gaming channels. They didn't mention Flatpaks at all, right? We've been on Nerd Nest, all of these handheld gaming YouTube channels, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of views. No one has ever actually brought up Flatpaks at all. What they say is, this thing is pretty awesome. I switch over to desktop mode. There's an app store there. I click on it, and then I get, Blender or whatever the thing I read about, right? So I think I would push back on the whole kind of what is our end target user here? I think the fact that we're arguing about packaging in 2025 is kind of sad. So I want to talk about it more about what are normal people telling us when they walk into this world, right? That's who we're designing for. And it's like, not ourselves. They don't care about devs. Like, I kind of feel sometimes, like as I'm reading the chat and stuff like that people are just expecting all of their friends who are going to come in to become Linux nerds like us, and they're going to want to talk about distros and packages and all that kind of stuff. But they hate this crap way more than we do. And for them, Flatpak is like good enough, right? And then we're just going to tell them, hey, you know what? It's improving every day. Stick with us. This is the model for you. And it is, because it's working. So, you know, sure, we're small and stuff like that, but I'm seeing a Flatpak native thing work. And then the experts, the reason I go after the developers so much, Matt, is because when I go after these developers like Tulip, like she gave us all Vert Manager Flatpak with Kimu. You don't have to set up KVM or any of that stuff, right? And that's who I'm investing in so that we can get that other half to come in. Sorry, man, I'm getting really preachy. I apologize. But, you know, I see it as this is a clean slate to start. If I were to start over with Linux today, I think that starting with Flatpak and fixing those issues is way better than going to try to go back and fix everything, right? Especially when we know that there's users that's serving. You know, there's enough Drews. It's not like Debian's going to go away tomorrow. Like Debian's not going away tomorrow, right? It is possible for us to add a segment of Linux that is Flatpak and FlatHub first, right? That has that image-based workflow that we like, in addition to what we have now, because the traditional package model isn't even growing. It's still at 4%. Matt, I was your age, dude, when it was at 4%.
How old do
dude,
how do you
I turned
think I
50
am?
this year. I've been trying to fix the Linux stuff.
Everyone looks at me and think like, oh, the guy's really young.
Yeah, but, you know, not to get overly preachy there, but like a lot of people just, they don't want to deal with this. They just don't. Right?
That was kind of... okay, so the conversation developed into how do we get people to use Flatpaks, and that was never my real aim for the conversation, because the transition over to Flatpak is going to be automatic. People don't care, right?
Yep.
Just like the transition to snaps on Ubuntu was basically harmless and behind the scenes because Ubuntu just did it, right?
Yeah,
right?
They're also not done though.
Right,
yeah.
But you go into the Ubuntu store or software, where they call it on Ubuntu, and everything there comes from a snap. They completely removed Debian from the Deb packages from the thing. You can't get a Debian package in there without doing some monkey around, right? Yeah. And it's the same thing on Fedora with Flatpak and FlatHub. You can't get an RPM package, I don't think, anymore from the GNOME Software Center on Fedora. It just comes from FlatHub. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I think that's the way that it is.
You can. Actually, Fedora does it the Fedora way. There's a drop-down.
Oh, that they do with the drop-down? That's nasty.
Oh, it's so bad. It's so embarrassing.
Yeah, you know what? Now that I think about it, OpenSUSE does that too. In GNOME,
so
I think mainly because I think they use the Fedora package for GNOME software, but that's whatever.
Ask me about Flatpak remotes after you're done with your thought.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the transition to FlatHub or Flatpak is going to be behind the scenes. The point of our conversation, we just kind of got away from, was the problems that we had with Flatpak, but also normal people don't have those problems either. Because I'll go back to what I said earlier. Security doesn't matter to people. I'll make a video on security and privacy, and it will bomb on the channel. No one cares, and that's just the way that it is. I mean, it's a sad fact of life. People don't care about their privacy all that much, and the people who do already know that they care about it, so they don't have to watch videos about it. So the whole permissions thing that we spent 20 minutes on, nobody cares. The people do care a little bit about the disk size thing that Tyler was talking about, but that's only if they do Flatpak list, and the vast majority of people don't do that.
Yeah, and oh man, there's a bunch of awesome shit that's coming too, but we can talk about that later.
Yeah, so you know, you're right in that the vast majority of these problems that we're discussing are nerd problems, but the problems that we're discussing also don't get fixed if the nerds don't talk about them, right? So
yeah,
because
so what you're asking, Matt, is how do I convince me to be a FlatHub advocate? Is that?
I think I am a FlatHub advocate.
For the audience,
right? So I think most people are.
That's one. You've done your job, George. Right there. That's one.
I'll tell people to use FlatHub, but I'm also not anti-native packaging either. Like I think that both of them have their place, and they both have their problems. And until one actually can say, "Hey, I'm absolutely better than the other," neither one of them are going to go away. And also, nothing goes away on Linux. We're still using 32-bit on some software. Slackware still exists, so things don't go away. So it's just what's next is a thing. So we do have to wrap this up. We're coming up on 9:30. So good news is we got the Nuggies of the week out of the way. We don't have to go about doing that. So Drew, Nate, did you guys have anything? We kind of talked over you guys. Do you guys have anything to say about any of this stuff?
No, this has been fascinating. Actually, I've been enjoying the conversation, and I'm always up for learning. So that's cool.
Yeah, and I talk way too much, so I appreciate your patience. See, Drew spoke very little, but what he said was very impactful.
Okay.
That's what you want right there.
Yeah, Nate, what about you?
That's all I got.
All right. So just silence. All right. Anyway, so that's going to be it for us. I don't actually know where Tyler went. I think he had to go to the bathroom or something. He just up and left. He got sick of us. But anyways, that's going to be end of the Linux cast. Normally we do the Nuggies at the beginning, Drew. Really weird.
Oh, here he is. Here he is.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels really weird. Like we have to do the Nuggies of the week. Damn it, we got to do them, but we already done them. All right. Anyways, that's it for this one. If you want to get in contact with us, you can do so. The easiest way is via email, contact@thelinuxcast.org. That is the best way. If you have things to say to any of the boys, just send that to that email and I will forward it along. Or you can find us on Mastodon, Discord. We all have those type of things. The best way to find all of those links will be thelinuxcast.org/contact. The website is thelinuxcast.org. There you'll find previous episodes all the way back to season 1, except for the first 3 episodes, which you'll never see because they were atrocious. They're really, really bad. But I do have them. They're in the vault. And eventually, like Bambi, they'll come out and still not be seen because I'm not giving those things away. Anyways, the website also has my blog posts from all over the place. I just ramble on like nonsense, like you guys know that I do. I do that in Word form, too. It's like word vomit.
You're my spirit animal, Matt. You do exactly what I do.
Yeah, I just ramble. That's what I do. Anyways, Tyler is on YouTube. Surprisingly, that unless his channel has been deleted, he wouldn't know it if it did. Though
It's still there.
I'm convinced.
It's still
Anyways, YouTube.com/ZanioG. One day there will be a 0AD stream, and it will be awesome. But until that time, and he finds his password, go subscribe to his channel. Anyways, he was famous for all of 30 seconds. He got shouted out on Mental Outlaw, and then he was no longer using OpenBSD anymore. That's his 15 minutes of fame. Drew is Just a Guy Linux. He actually posts videos. The rest of you guys could, take some learning from Mr. Drew there. What would you post, like 2 videos? Plus you streamed once this week, Drew?
I streamed a video that I hated so much I actually just removed it. So I was just like, this sucks. I'm just deleting it. So
I thought it was great. It was fantastic. You install anytime you just install Debian on camera, I'll watch it. It's like nerd porn. I don't know why. It doesn't matter. I've seen him install Debian like probably 100 times.
Yeah.
I'll still watch it. It's great. Anyways, he's Just a Guy Linux on YouTube, youtube.com/JustAGuyLinux. Go subscribe. All of his stuff is great. Nate, I'm assuming you and Tyler have just gotten together and decided that YouTube is not for you. You two have never made a video again, man. You've been promising forever.
Yep, the video's coming out tomorrow too.
Are you?
It's gonna be
Really?
totally
Okay.
different. Yep.
All right, so everyone in the chat, go to youtube.com/NatePicksTechWorld. Give him a subscribe, and then when he posts his video tomorrow, leave a comment that says first or second, or whatever. That way everyone gets a comment in there. So go do that. youtube.com/NatePicksTechWorld. That's right, Nate?
Yep.
I'm gonna be asking you the actual name of your channel probably from here until the end of time. George, where can we find you, bud?
Find me at flathub.org. Find the app you love and donate to that app developer. That's all I got. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. I'm always around and on the Discord if you have questions.
All right. Anyways, that's it for this one. We record this live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We're never late. And anyone who says otherwise is a big fat liar. Anyways, youtube.com/TheLinuxcast if you want to watch us live. If you don't want to watch us live, which I guess apparently if you're not around at that time, then there's a reason why. But otherwise, the live is the way to go. But anyways, you can find the recorded version edited by Mr. Nate, who does a fantastic job. You can find the edited version on all of your favorite podcatchers, or it will be released on the YouTube channel on Saturday evenings. So there you go. That's it for this one. We'll see you guys next time.